So I didn't really know what to expect with Fallout 3's DLC, but one thing I didn't expect was to be bored out of my mind. Giving my take right off the bat, Operation Anchorage is a boring piece of downloadable content. It's not completely devoid of value necessarily, but I found very little here to really enjoy. Upon obtaining this expansion, or really walking out of the vault if you have the Game of the Year edition, players are greeted with a distress signal. Tracing the signal to the origin of its location, we come to some members of the Brotherhood of Steel having a skirmish with some super mutants. These members of the Brotherhood actually split off from Elder Lion's division of the Brotherhood, as they believed that he had gone too soft and lost sight of the original mission of the organization. Okay, pretty interesting so far, something that really fleshes out one of the main factors of the base game by adding an interesting opposing force. I can dig that. We find them inside the Virtual Strategic Solutions Facility, a building from the old world dedicated to developing virtual combat aids for the US military. Inside, the Brotherhood outcasts attempt to open up a sealed door to the armory of the facility. The only way to open the door seems to be by surviving a military simulation similar to the virtual reality experience from Vault 112. A convoluted way to open the door, it seems, but that's where our main character comes in, as their Pip-Boy acts as a sort of key to enter this virtual world. So we enter the VR simulation of the historical war of the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska from the Red Chinese military. Then we are stripped of our inventory and all of our character progression, and are given a stock character that has to procure all of their weapons and equipment on site. What the fuck? Like, I get why they do this, but this completely invalidates everything that we spent the entire game doing. Oh well, next we're funneled down these linear hallways with various enemies from the Chinese military in run-of-the-mill cover shooter scenarios. And this is what we do for the next hour. Walking through generic hallways, killing enemies, getting more health and ammo, and picking up pieces of intel. Eventually there are a few objectives later on, and some choices to make about what loadouts and squad mates you want to bring along to help complete them, but that's basically it. Other than that, you are essentially playing a Call of Duty campaign with Fallout 3's shooting mechanics, which is just as bad as it sounds. Actually, it's even worse than that, because Call of Duty at least had Modern Warfare and World at War out at the time, which had some really stellar set pieces. No, this simulation is much more akin to that of COD 1, but even with less notable moments, and that game came out in 2003. Thankfully, traveling through Alaska is at least a decent change of pace from the capital wasteland. I've never been so happy to see the colors blue and white after spending so much time with the grays of the base game. However, I do have to say, it is a little bit of a disconnect from the vanilla world, and it really feels out of place when comparing it to the DC area. So we make our way through the simulation, killing everything in sight, finding a couple of cool new enemies including the Spider Drones, Chimera Tanks, and Crimson Dragoons, before convincing the general of the Chinese forces to kill himself. Speech skill. Still really fucking good. After that, we exit the simulation and are able to open the vault and take whatever loot our heart desires. Oh, and also these two get into a fight about whether we should be allowed to take that shit. So I blew up the facility with a fat man just to settle the dispute. Apparently you can get an additional perk from collecting all the intel in the simulation, but oops, fuck me, I didn't get all of them in my first run through, and you aren't allowed to re-enter the simulation again. So fuck that, I guess. I don't know, man, this was not very good. There wasn't anything offensively bad, and it only took me an hour and a half to complete, but this was definitely a miss in my books. I don't like how you are nullified of your entire playthrough choices by entering the simulation. What you actually do in there breaks Fallout 3 down to one of its weakest aspects of its combat, and I hate how once you complete the simulation, you are locked out of entering from those areas again. The loot is decent, the story is kind of interesting, and the change in scenery is nice, but overall this was a pretty mediocre experience, and honestly, I would probably put it near the bottom of the side content that I experienced in Fallout 3. I would say play it if you're desperate for the loot or really want some more content for this game, but otherwise it's pretty safe to skip. Thank you all for watching. Next time we're going to be taking a look at the next Fallout 3 expansion, The Pit. Let's hope the next one steps it up a little bit from what we saw today. What was your favorite memory of Operation Anchorage? Please be sure to leave your comments down below, and if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a like and maybe consider subscribing. And then I'll see you guys in the next one.